All right, we'll call the K-12 subcommittee to order. 1, 2. All right, we're good. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Carringer, Cassada, Sapicki, Clemens, Haston,
Here.
Hurt, Love, Reagan, White.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Any personal orders before we begin? Seeing none, let's go through some of the calendar here, and I'll let you know kind of what we've had change. Item number 2, House Bill 2564 has been rolled 1 week. Item number 4, House Bill 2633 has been rolled 1 week.
Bill roll last calendar for 6 months.
Item number 5, House Bill 2673 has been rolled. What did you say? Last calendar. Let's see. Item number 8, is that right? Item number 8, House Bill 1863, final calendar. Item number 9, House Bill 2253, final calendar. Item number 11, House Bill 2454 is rolled a week. I believe that is it. Did I miss anything there? All right. We are going to roll a couple of members' bills, a few spaces, so that we can get to some of our guests that are with us. We will roll House Bill 2341 a few spaces. I need to gavel that. And we will roll House Bill 2085 by Chairman Watt a few spaces. And we'll go ahead and go to item number 16, House Bill 1954 by Representative Sherrill. Item number 16, members. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned. Representative Sherrill, do you have an amendment with this?
Yes, sir. Have amendment 013801.
All right. Does the amendment make the bill?
Yes.
All right. Without objection, members, we will go ahead and add 13801 to House Bill 1954. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. Representative Sherrill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and members. Myself and Leader Gann is here on behalf of some of our counties that are having some issues with our, would you say maybe superintendent of schools, which they are wanting the opportunity to elect their superintendent of school. So here's what we have in this bill, House Bill 1954, which does have the amendment that we just talked about, the 013801. And I just want to share with you that before I was even elected, and I've shared this with a number of people come to me and asked, would I try to get where the people could have the opportunity to elect their superintendent of school, which now we know is all appointed. It was changed back in 1992. So number one, this bill that I have, and I want to try to make it very clearly that we're not trying to just change it from appointed to elected. This is an option bill, number one. Loud and clear, and I know that some people has tried to muddy the water on this, but this is an option bill that it would be for superintendent of schools, maybe continue on appointing like they are, or either elected by the people in the county. We have at least 95 superintendents in the state of Tennessee that oversee our children, education, and we have over 1 million people, over 600 million people in the state of Tennessee. We have a school board, and a lot of times, most of the time, it seems to be there's about 7 that's on the board, and it seems to be that sometimes we have a superintendent that gets 4 people on his side, and he gets done on whatever agenda he's on trying to get done, he gets it done. So we're here today to try to help the people. You know, I've had over 15 members here in the House that's having some issues with their superintendent of school, and they've asked me to carry the bill as Leader Gant and his county and others has asked. So we're trying to carry this for our counties, and we were having some issues. And I was told that elected superintendent of schools will stay an average of 10 years. Now, the appointed superintendent of schools will usually stay about 2 years. So if they have a 4-year contract, there'll be 2 years there that the taxpayers has to pick up the tab. So think about things like that we're dealing with. For instance, Grundy County, right now, they're on their 3rd superintendent of schools since I was elected in 2016. That's not good for our counties. It's not good for our students. Not good for our teachers. We're not trying to change the qualifications of the superintendent of school. We're not trying to change the school board. All we're doing is asking that an option would be, if your county would like to continue on appointing your superintendent of school, you could do that. If your county would like to have the opportunity to elect, please give this freedom to these people that would like to have that opportunity to elect their superintendent of school, and do this for the children. Maybe you don't do it for me, but do it for the children. And I would ask that you help us on this bill, please. Vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Sherrill. Members, we do have the department down to want to testify on this. Without objection, if it's okay with the members, we will go out of session to, you're okay with this? Okay. You're in the bullpen? Okay. All right, sorry, we had them down. Representative Gant?
Thank you, Chairman and committee, and I'll be very brief, and I just want to reiterate that this is a permissive, this is not a mandate on any county to follow this. This is very open. It provides accountability for our superintendents across the state, for counties that want to do opt-in to have their superintendent elected. So I would just, kind of put it in this perspective. If we have to be elected and accountable to our constituents, counties should be able to hold that same regard to their superintendents across this state that decide to do that. And that's not saying that every county, this may not fit certain counties, but this does address some problems that Representative Sherrill, pointed out. And I would just encourage this committee, if there's a way we can continue this conversation and push this to full committee to continue the conversation and not shut the conversation of this issue out, because this is shedding a lot of good light on some of our school districts, and I think the conversation needs to continue to full committee. If y'all would indulge us to continue this conversation and get this to full committee so we can continue to have some of these discussions. I know I would appreciate it. I know the sponsor would as well. So thank you, Chairman and committee.
Thank you, Leader Gant. Does anybody have any questions for our sponsors? Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for either one of you, I just have some kind of logistical things. So if a county decides to go back to the election of its school board, of its school director or superintendent, what will the term be?
You hit your microphone, please. You're recognized.
Right now, they're appointed, everywhere they're appointed.
Right. So if they choose to elect them, how long would that term be?
That would be, okay, excuse me, 4 years it would be.
Representative Clemens?
And so in that situation, now the way that they do it, and you referenced this, they contract with the individual to serve. So would they get elected and then enter into a contract, or would they just serve as an elected official for X amount of years?
They would
Representative
serve as elected 4 years.
Representative Clemens, follow up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last one. So right now, if they don't do their job or do it well or do something because they're under contract, the board can claim breach of contract. They can terminate that individual and hire a new one to come in and replace them. Do you have any concerns about losing the ability to fire someone or claim a breach of contract anywhere in that 4-year period, since you're going to be locked into that term of years now in such a pivotal role in the county government?
Representative Sherrill?
We're not having the issue of actually getting fired for the superintendent of schools. We're having an issue where they're quitting, and they're, about 2 years, maybe 3, and then they have to turn around, the county does, or the taxpayers do, they have to finish paying out his contract for 4 years or whatever it is. They may be longer than that, so.
Yeah.
Representative Clemens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, my point is just we have the ability to do that now. If they don't do the job or they do something wrong, we can claim breach or, and terminate them and find a new one. But if we elect them for those 4 years, you're locked in. You don't have that same ability to change direction or change course for individuals. So that was my question. And not that it had been a problem thus far. It may have been. I don't know. But that's my question was, if you have a concern about being locked into that individual, maybe they're unqualified and you got them for 4 years and the entire course of your school system is going in one direction, you're locked in. Do you have any concerns about that?
Representative Sherrill?
No, sir, I don't really, because they was elected when it was changed in 1992 to the appointed, and I think as I've talked with some of the superintendent of schools that was elected before it was changed to appointed, I feel very confident that the people in the county would elect who they would feel confident to do this. And again, we're not trying to change the qualifications of the superintendent of school, or we're not trying to change the school board. All we're doing is trying to ask that each county, if they choose to, they continue on appointing just like they are, or if they choose and would like to elect, they would have that freedom to elect. So each county is on their own to do what, and it's just giving some of the freedom back to the people that in our counties. Our freedoms are being taken away from us every day across the United States. And all it would do is just give a little bit of freedom back to the people.
Chairman Watt?
Thank you, Chairman. As I sit here and think through this, and either way, you and I have talked about this for a couple of years now. I know this is passion to you. But I'm trying to think through the long term. If we have elected superintendents, 99% of the times it seems like it's going to be a local person because they got a campaign. And so it seems like you're limiting your ability to maybe bring in the best person with qualifications from somewhere around the state that may be a good superintendent, or even outside of that. Do you think this will hurt in any way with finding each local finding the best person? Because it's got to be within the community, or nobody knows who the boy is going to be. It's going to be an election.
Representative Sherrill?
Thank you. I think every county, or I feel very confident that every county has a qualified person to be the superintendent of school. I mean, we have great teachers in all the counties, and we have people that is qualified across the state of Tennessee in every county to be the superintendent of school. I think that, say for instance, Grundy County, I'm going to use it because of the 3 that they've had. The people that live in Grundy County care more about their students, them people there, them students, they care more about them than somebody from maybe another part of the state of Tennessee that comes in to be the superintendent of school. Wouldn't you say?
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I believe very confident that your county, my county, whoever's, you can find a good qualified person to be the superintendent of school.
Mm-hmm.
Chairman Watt?
One more follow-up. What about, since we're electing, and just like was this 4 years, right? If the elections are normally held in August, and school starts in August. So I'm just thinking about, you've got a superintendent that's running campaigning during the summer, and we're trying to get ready for school. For example, just like if the governor's BEP rewrite goes through, there's going to be a lot of work to do in the next couple of years by a superintendent and a school board to get ready for that. How do you feel like the disruption that may bring, where you got a person campaigning and not actually, in his office doing what needs to be done?
Representative Sherrill?
Well, you and I and a lot of other people have to be elected, so we have to get out and work to be elected, so to come and do our job, what we do here. So what would be the difference in him or her versus us to be elected? We have to get out and work when we maybe we need to be doing something else, but we have to get out and work to be elected. I don't think it would be a hindrance.
Leader Gant?
Yeah, Chairman White, one thing I'd point out is we do this with all of our courthouse employees, like the trustee, tax assessor, trustee, whoever that is that we elect. We're entrusting them with the county's money to manage it. So the same principle would apply here for a school superintendent. So that argument can be looked at in various ways, but I think that the citizens, if given the opportunity to elect, they're going to elect the best qualified person for their school superintendent. So just like we do with the other county offices that we elect, as well. So, and like I said, you can look at many offices like the sheriff, the trustee, tax assessor. That same argument can apply to those positions as well. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just a couple of points I wanted to, I'm sorry, did somebody? To echo Chairman Watt's point, I do think the difference on the comparison of our job and their job at the superintendent level is that we're not possibly 3 weeks into session when we're getting sworn in. And what you could have happen is election happened in August, you're already a week or 2 weeks in, possibly into in-service. By the time that person is sworn in, maybe in September, you're already a month into the school schedule. And I think, that's something that is very problematic I think that this could solve one problem, but I think it could resonate into a few extra additional problems. And the one other thing I'll just say is that we just recently put in the option for the partisan school board elections. And, and I think that over time will, possibly rectify one of the key problems that you're talking about. But you and I have had a lot of discussions about this as well. Not as many years as Chairman Watt and you probably have, but anyhow, I think that I had, Representative Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is discretionary. In other words, it's up to the local governments, correct?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of discussions up here about giving local more power and giving more authority. And so if we believe that, here's a perfect vehicle for that. Thank you for the bill.
No other further questions? Oh, Chairman Sapiki?
Thank you. I'm sorry for being late, Mr. Chairman. Representative Sherrill, I support your bill. It's a permissive bill. Our job is when we have the ability to let the locals govern themselves, we should let the locals govern themselves. There's no mandate in this that requires any district to do this. I would urge that you pass this bill and move it forward. This is a permissive bill that anybody can use or nobody may use. Thank you.
No further questions for the sponsor. Without objection, we'll go. Representative Carringer? Oh. We'll be voting on House Bill 1954. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Madam Clerk, let's do a roll call vote on that, please.
Representative Carringer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Representative Cassada? Aye. Votes aye. Chairman Sapiki? Aye. Votes aye. Representative Clemens?
No.
Votes no. Chairman Haston?
No.
Votes no. Representative Hurt? Aye. Votes aye. Representative Love? No. Votes no. Chairman Reagan? Chairman White?
No.
Votes no. Chairman, you have 4 ayes and 4 noes.
Bill fails for lack of majority. Thank you for your time. Thank you for presenting the bill.
Thank you.
Takes us to item number here? That was rolled. All right, I did skip over item number 6. It is on last calendar. I'm sorry that I did not announce that previously. That brings us to item number 7, House Bill 2582 by Representative Eldridge. Do we have a motion? Motion. Properly motion. Representative Eldridge, you are recognized on House Bill 2582.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. I believe there is an amendment with this bill, and I believe it's probably untimely filed.
Okay, we do have an untimely file amendment. What's the drafting code that you have on that?
Drafting code on that is 13661.
Is that what we have? All right. Members, we'll be voting on whether to take up an untimely filed amendment, drafting code 13661. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Does the amendment make your bill?
It does, Mr. Chairman.
All right, members, without objection, we'll go ahead and vote to adopt this amendment. Do I have a motion in a second? Motion. Properly motioned. All those in favor of adopting amendment 13661 indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. Representative Eldridge, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular bill, when an LEA has to name a child abuse coordinator, and they send that information to the Department of Children's Services, a situation could come up where it involves another staff member at a school, and you're faced with a situation where you're having to say something to a person that works with you at the school, and this would allow an individual who needs to report abuse to go around that person, the coordinator, and go directly to the Department of Children's Services or to law enforcement, and that's basically the gist of the bills.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, excuse me. Seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 2582. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Go back and get Karen here. All right, let's go back to item number 1. House Bill 2341 by Representative Carringer. All right, properly motioned. Representative Carringer, you are recognized on House Bill 2341.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the committee. House Bill 2341 just expands the list of individuals employed by a local board of education that are required to receive in-service training on the detection, intervention, prevention, and treatment of human trafficking in which the victim is a child to all school personnel. And with that, I would highly be able to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative Carringer. Does anybody have any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Sapiki?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, a question of clarity here. It says that all school personnel. Can you describe what that means? Because we have contracts with outside vendors. Are they going to have to go through this training too? Lawn care companies that take care?
Representative Carringer?
And let me go. I need to see if she was on to speak. Do we have Janine?
We did not have anyone
Okay.
on this.
Okay. Okay, no, it's only teachers and the ones that are already required to take some of this training outside. It's not about any contractors outside.
Follow up.
Chairman Sapiki?
And I may be looking at an old bill here, but it does say requires that all school personnel.
Yep.
It says all teachers, principals, and other school personnel employed by the board.
Right,
So does
which
that
employed
include
by the
contractors?
board.
Does that include contractors?
No, this is not.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Representative Clemens?
Yeah, thank you. My question was along the same lines as to whether or not paraprofessionals and those types of individuals who are in the school and do qualify as personnel, if they are required to receive this training.
Representative Carringer?
No, they are not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Sapicki?
Hate to beleaguer the point here, but like legal staff would not be required to take this that are employed by the Board of Education?
This was the,
We do have a definition for school personnel. We will go out of session and let legal read that. So without objection, we'll go out of session.
Katie Robertson, Office of Legal Services. The bill does not define what school personnel is, but it would be the plain ordinary meaning of the word, and personnel means people employed in an organization.
Any questions for legal?
So, not on legal, no.
Let me go back into session then. Back in session, I think what we might be looking at is we might need to look at rolling this a week to see if we can get some clarity on what the definition of school personnel is from the department and make sure we get
yeah,
that language.
and I
possibly
apologize. I
tightened up.
thought she was signed up to speak because she'd met with.
That's no problem.
Yeah.
You still are in good shape on the roll.
Yeah.
So without objection, we were going to roll House Bill 2341 1 week. All right. Is Representative Alexander? See if there's anybody else here. Chairman Rudd. Okay. Members, we're going to take up an item. We do have some guests with us to testify, so we will take up item number 10, House Bill 1836 by Representative Clemens. Do I have a motion? Second, properly motioned. Representative Clemens, you are recognized on House Bill 1836.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I am here to introduce House Bill 1836. Like many of you entering this session, knowing we would have a lot of debate, as we usually do, about how to best to improve educational outcomes in our students' classrooms, I set about looking for a few ways to accomplish our mutual aims that were try to be less controversial but also fully supported by data and science. We all share the goals of, 1, protecting and improving children's physical and mental health and well-being, and 2, improving students' educational performance and outcomes. One undisputed way to accomplish both of these is to have appropriate school start times for our middle and high school students. House Bill 1836 would require that high schools, grades 9 through 12, begin classroom instruction no earlier than 8:30 a.m., and middle schools, which is defined as grades 6 through 8 or any combination thereof, begin classroom instruction no earlier than 8 a.m. The bill specifies that this is to begin or wouldn't begin until the 2023-24 school year, so that we provide our LEAs time to appropriately plan, fund, and for us to hopefully fund them appropriately to comply with this law. As I said, this legislation is rooted in science and data. The following organizations specifically endorse and recommend the legislation's specific start times and/or acknowledge the adverse impact of sleep deprivation and too early school start times on the mental health and well-being and performance of students. The National Education Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, the National Association of School Nurses, the American Thoracic Society, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the American Medical Association, the National PTA, the Society of Behavioral Medicine, the U.S. Surgeon General. Additionally, our bill has recently been endorsed by the Tennessee chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Tennessee Psychological Association, the ARC of Tennessee, and the Tennessee Sleep Society. Ladies and gentlemen, what you may hear sometimes is that our teenagers these days are lazy. This is incorrect. They are simply adjusting to their body's natural changes. The science is as follows. Changes in the circadian rhythm during adolescence shifts teens' internal clocks to later bed and wake times. I'm starting to experience this with one of my own children, so I researched this. Because of the way adolescents' bodies release melatonin, waking a teen at 7 a.m. is akin to waking one of us at 4 a.m. That's what the science supports. So if you can imagine, we are asking, in some instances, our children to be in the classroom, in their desk, learning and ready to fully perform at 7 a.m. Now, I wake up like some of you early and go to the gym, but at 4 a.m., I am not ready to fully perform and learn and soak in everything that my teachers have to provide to me. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that teenagers between 14 and 17 years of age should get 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep per night to achieve optimal health and learning. More sleep leads to increases in and benefits to memory and learning, attention, emotional regulation, mental health and well-being, and weight control, body mass index. Adolescents who do not get enough sleep are more likely to be overweight, not get enough physical exercise, suffer from depressive symptoms, engage in unhealthy risk behaviors such as drinking alcohol, smoking tobacco, and using illicit drugs, as well as performing poorly in school. Loss of sleep leads to decreases in and problems with information retention and cognition, student behavior, and classroom conflict, attendance issues, mood regulation. Mr. Chairman, as you said, I had provided you a list, two individuals, Dr. Mello from Vanderbilt University, a specialist in this area. She is unable to make it today, but I emailed the entire committee her testimony, so I hope you had the opportunity to read through that or review it. But Ms. Anna Thorson, who is on the list, is here today, and she is a parent who is experiencing this currently with her children, and I would ask that we go out of session to hear from her.
Members, without objection, we will go out of session to have our guest give her testimony. We are out of session, and just make sure that you hit the button there and your red light will come on, and then just state your name for the record if you would, and you have 3 minutes, and then we'll open it up for any questions that anybody might have. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to the subcommittee and chair. My name is Anna Thorson, and I am the parent of 3 daughters with disabilities, 2 of whom are still living and attend school in Metro Nashville Public Schools, whose start time is at 7:05 a.m. Even for teens with good sleep habits, early school start times cause chronic sleep deprivation because, like he mentioned, teens fall asleep later and wake later. The majority of teen school districts mandate that teens start at times that experts agree increase the risk for poor academic performance, absenteeism, drug abuse, and car accidents. For teens with disabilities and mental health concerns, the consequences of early start times can be even more serious, leading to worsened health, anxiety, depression, attempted suicide, or death. One study showed that a loss of an hour of sleep actually increased suicide rates by 53%. These are concerns I live with every day in my own home. My youngest daughter is a freshman who suffers from a rare genetic epilepsy that killed her older sister. Last March, my youngest daughter had a life-threatening seizure that was partially induced by sleep deprivation. My middle living daughter is a sophomore in high school, and she suffers from PTSD, OCD, and a tic disorder, whose symptoms are exacerbated by the chronic sleep deprivation of our early start times. Early start times put my girls at risks, which is why I am grateful for this bill, and because a life that this bill saves could very well be one of my daughters. You might think that if you push back start times, teens are just going to stay up even later. But studies show again and again that teens really do get more sleep. With more sleep, teens are healthier. Teens with disabilities are less endangered. Teens with mental health issues are safer. Graduation rates go up. Sports performance goes up. Academics and attendance improve. This has been well documented for over a decade, and last year the Surgeon General even declared a national health emergency for our students with mental health concerns and urged school districts to push back start times. Yet there has been no urgent action in the past decade, much less the last year, for our Tennessee school districts to address this crisis, which is why our teens really need you to pass House Bill 1836. Tennessee's public education system should not be in the business of mandating student harm. I understand that healthy school start times will take effort and in some areas resources, but many districts nationwide, from small rural districts to complex urban districts, have pushed back start times to protect teens, but also to keep robust athletics, which we all care about, after-school jobs, and thriving extracurricular programs. The RAND Corporation even estimates that pushing back start times could save Tennessee $120 million in the first 2 years. Please pass House Bill 1836 to protect our teens. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your time and thank you for being here. Members, do you have any questions for our guest? We just appreciate you having an interest enough in this issue and with your kids to come forward and take your time with us today. Thank you for joining us. And you have a question for the sponsor? Without objection, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Without objection, we'll go back into session. And Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized for a question on the bill, or not a question on the bill, recognized for a question for the sponsor.
We are making this a statewide mandate. We are taking a permissive bill that every school system across the state of Tennessee already has. The emails that I've received have been from Metro Nashville, 98% of them. If this is an issue with Metro Nashville, go to your school board and tell them to change the rule, change the law, change their start times. But to mandate 95 other counties do this because of one school board that doesn't want to listen to their parents, that's a local issue. And I don't think we just had a permissive bill here that we didn't like. Here's a permissive bill that we want to take away. Districts have events and athletic competitions in different time zones. A later dismissal would affect the ability to stay in class for education, Central Standard Time versus Eastern Standard Time. Additional buses needed to run routes and additional drivers. McMinn County, from research, would need an additional $4.5 million on transportation. Athens City, an additional $1.8 million. Additional cafeteria staff to serve and cook breakfast. Students students at school longer for after schools move into dinner time. Families are already waiting to drop off students before doors open. Creates a problem in the AM and PM for more childcare. Impacts after school activities, tutoring, oversteps local control and daily operations of the district. Athletic practices are already after school, and I live this every day with my sons. Athletic practices are already after school. To extend the time would get students home even later than they currently get home at roughly 7 o'clock right now. Metro Nashville already has this ability to do this. If they don't want to listen to their parents, then replace the school board. Replace the school board. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to send this to summer study.
Second. We do have a motion. Representative Clemens, you are recognized to respond.
Thank you, Chairman. And I certainly understand, anytime we want to mandate something, and, that's certainly concerning. And I appreciate that concern. However, as you said, the science is undisputed. And so, we always look for ways up here. We debate a lot of controversial stuff. We talk about how we're going to benefit educational outcomes in the classrooms and improve student performance. And we know some of those ways. And the science and data shows that this is one of those ways. It's a non-controversial way. Addressing hunger. I have a bill to provide free meals to every student. That's another way, addressing hunger. These aren't controversial things, and they fit within our mutual aim and scope. This isn't just a Nashville problem. I think over 75% of Tennessee school districts start school before these school times. I would point out this limits in-classroom learning to 8:30, so you could technically start school at 8 a.m. or maybe even 7:45 if you have a built-in homeroom period or something like that. But the point is, I understand your concerns with the mandate, but this isn't just a Nashville problem. This is an issue affecting many students across the state of Tennessee. We know the science and data shows we can improve educational performance, outcomes, mental health, and well-being of our students, as well as athletic performance and a whole host of other things. by doing this. And so it seems to me as to what are our priorities here as a body and as an educational committee. You know, and I recognize the problems. I recognize the logistical hurdles. Once upon a time, every school started from 8 to 3, just about, and school boards started making strategic cuts to their transportation budgets and finding ways to cut corners because the state was underfunding them. So they staggered school start times, and they moved those times earlier. And we see the impact that has on students now. And cost is always an issue. And I recognize that, and we need to pay our bus drivers more. We need more buses. We need better buses. We need more of them. But here's the question. If we're going to prioritize and say that we're focused on addressing these issues, which are our mutual goals, the unspent total general fund revenues and reserves in the state budget that we were all given 2 or 3 weeks ago is $23,511,308,860. $15.9 billion of that are recurring. Over $6 billion of this is in the education fund. Our rainy day fund balance is $1.55 billion at the end of June of this year, going up to 1.6 according to the governor in his latest budget. And from August to December of this fiscal year alone, our state overcollected $1.65 billion of your tax money. So the question is, what are our priorities as a state? I think our priority is education, should be. And now we have an undisputed, proven way to improve educational performance, mental health and well-being of our children. But we're going to use cost as an excuse? I understand the concern. I understand the concern of local school districts. I don't like mandates. I like local control as well. But we know what can help address the issues we're trying to address. Let's not use excuses. I think this is a simple, straightforward way to do this. And I understand you're going to have to answer questions to your districts. And I understand we would have to put some pressure on the governor to spend some money. And we control the budget. We remember that. We talk about it all the time. So let's prioritize education. Let's do it in a way that makes sense, that we know will work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Where we stand right now is we've had a motion and a second to send House Bill 1836 to summer study. Without objection, we'll be taking a vote on that. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1836 to summer study indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it. Bill is sent to summer study. All right, that's going to take us to item number 12 on our calendar. House Bill by Representative Alexander. This will be House Bill 2201. All right. Do I have a motion on the bill? Properly motioned. And Representative Alexander, I believe that you have an untimely filed amendment. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you, Chairman.
What is your drafting code on that?
And my drafting code is 014746.
All right.
And Chairman, there was also another amendment that was put on it. I didn't even know about it because there was a misspelled word in the original bill, which was overridden with this amendment.
We just need to take this.
And that House, I can give you that drafting
No,
code
but
also.
Illegals told me all we need to do is work off of this new untimely
one.
filed amendment. So
Okay.
members, before us is drafting code 014746, an untimely filed amendment. All those in favor of, do I have a motion? Motion to consider, second. All right, properly motioned. All those in favor of hearing this amendment indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. All right, we are considering amendment 14746. Do I have a motion and a second? Properly motioned, and does this make your bill?
Yes, it does.
All right, without objection, members, we will go ahead and adopt this amendment. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. House Bill 2201, you are recognized, Representative Alexander.
Okay, great. Under current law, revenues generated through sports gambling are distributed in the following manner. And so it's 80% is deposited in the lottery for education account, 15% is sent to local governments on per capita basis to be used for local infrastructure projects, and 5% is sent to the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to provide treatment services and prevention interventions for gambling problems. In 2019, the General Assembly passed the Tennessee Sports Gambling Act, as you well know. Under this law, the revenues generated are distributed in the following manner, which I just mentioned. According to the fiscal note, 40+ million will be generated each year and directed to the lottery for an education account. With the lottery for education account operating with annual surpluses of tens of millions of dollars, these revenues are simply rolling into the Tennessee Promise Endowment. According to the Deputy Governor Butch Ely in a budget hearing earlier this month, the earnings from the Tennessee Promise Revenue Fund are on track to exceed program cost by $15 million per year, which frees up the sports gambling revenues. This proposal would redirect, with the amendment, 40% instead of 80% that I originally had in the bill. We are making this concession. We know the governor wants to use these gambling funds for higher education, but there is a real need for pre-K across this state. We have pre-K in Kingsport City Schools right now, and it's doing tremendous things to help our children learn and be on track for to help our children learn. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. Picky walked across. To help us be on track to get our children reading by the 3rd grade reading level. That's basically what this bill does. Is we're just asking 40% to be set aside.
Thank you, Representative Alexander, for that explanation. Representative Love, you have a question for the sponsor?
More of a statement, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I want to thank you for bringing the legislation. I know that early childhood education is extremely important to getting our children on track for reading.
Yes, sir.
I know also from those who work in that profession that you've got to have dedicated funding to reassure the providers that they can provide high quality early education. So thank you for bringing the legislation.
Thank you. This also solves, if we could start funding pre-K in the school, this solves a lot of issues across the country. It solves a workforce issue because mothers can go back to work. It solves an issue where children are in bad homes and are not being read to and need desperately to get into a classroom where a teacher cares. This money will allow us also to provide good, strong curriculum, not a babysitting service, but actual curriculum where kids are learning.
Chairman Watt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Alexander, for leading the way on this. I represent an area in Shelby County, West Tennessee, where pre-K is very, very important. And in this particular rewrite of our funding formula that's going through right now, that's really a K-12 bill. It really doesn't address pre-K, so we still don't have extra dollars for pre-K there. Right. And so I'm going to support your bill, and hopefully, we can find some funds for our pre-K students. By the way, you have the most beautiful handwriting. I have never. Have y'all seen this?
Oh my gosh.
Wow, teach us.
Chairman Watt, you're off the bill.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you for bringing the bill.
I think you're probably the first person that ever told me that. I thought I read it like a chicken.
Chairman Sapicki.
Scratching.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate your passion for this. We continue to get conflicting information about pre-K. I wish we could have a study done on recent numbers. of students in the last couple of years to see exactly how bad COVID has affected our children in Tennessee. The information that we have right now is very inconclusive one way or the other, whether or not pre-K works by third grade or not. There may be an issue that maybe pre-K does work, but first through third is not working. And that's why we're not seeing those gains. There is a concern I have in the bill. You have a limiting factor in this bill to Upper Appalachia, rural and distressed counties. It says it's section 2, B. It says the department is encouraged to prioritize the awarding of grants to LEAs operating a voluntary pre-K program that is located in a county designated as a distressed rural county or located in a county designated as distressed or at-risk county by the Appalachian Regional Commission. Is that what's in the bill?
That is section 2, what did you say?
B.
B.
That's still in the bill, correct?
Chairman Subcommittee, I believe that that's just, correct me if I'm wrong, if I can get a nod, I believe that's just the commission that designated it through their research, but I may be wrong on that. I don't think that it's I don't think it's dedicated to that area, but
My point was, I'm
It
sorry,
is-
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Spicki?
My point was this is for distressed rural counties or located in a county designated as distressed or at-risk county. So there may be a limiting factor in there that could affect our large urban cities that face some of the toughest challenges we have in their home lives. And plus, this is also, I believe, a lottery issue here too.
That is correct. Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
I think it goes across the state, but, and certainly did not mean it just to be for rural areas. So I just didn't catch that, Scott. Representative Spicki, sorry, I shouldn't have said Scott.
I believe it's an encouraging, I think that it's not limiting in a way that I think that the department's encouraged to focus on those areas, if I'm correct, if I'm reading it correct.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we'll be voting on. Mr. Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman Reagan.
The question wasn't so much for the sponsor, but for the chair. Since this is a lottery bill, do we not have to send it to the lottery calendar?
We did check on that. It can't come from the subcommittee, so that'll have to, it can be, and it probably will, but it'll have to come from the full.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 2201. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. On to full education. All right, that brings us to item number 13 by Chairman Rudd. That'll be House Bill 2760. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned. Chairman Rudd, you are recognized on House Bill 2760.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. This legislation was brought to me by my school superintendent, members of my school board, to address a long-term problem that they've had, and that is a result of complaints and continuous call for help by teachers and the county administrator to find a solution to the long-term problem that I've been hearing since I've been in office. What to do with students that are continuously threatening schools, threatening fellow students, spread rumors that endanger the safety of schools and students about the school on social media. Also, this legislation will allow schools to teach disruptive students from campuses and replace them with a special program via remote learning. Some counties have alternative schools where they place troubled students, and some have alternative programs where they don't have individual schools that place troublesome or alternative students. In the event that a school is full, or an event that the program no longer can handle them in the school, this would allow schools to teach these disruptive students from home via remote learning, and that's what the bill is aimed to do.
Thank you, Chairman Rudd. Does anybody have any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Reagan, you are recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Chairman Rudd. Having instructed in an alternative school, I fully appreciate the challenges that are faced there. My question, however, has to do with the fact that we have truancy problems, which is a lot of them lined up in those alternative schools over that, if you send them home to be online and they choose to check in and then just leave it on, how are we going to solve that problem?
Chairman Rudd?
Well, the bill, as far as that, the bill has asked that the State Board of Education promulgate rules to track the guidelines and their attendance in these programs. If we're not, the normal laws that are already in place would take care of that.
Chairman Reagan?
Thank you.
And this is purely permissive.
Any other questions for Chairman Rudd? Seeing none, we will be voting on House Bill 2760. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. On to full education.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you. That takes us back to item number, right here, three. Back to item number 3, House Bill 2085 by Chairman White. Do I have a second? Properly motioned. Chairman White, you are recognized on House Bill 2085.
Thank you, Chairman and committee, and I present from down here. Since I was out of order on my handwriting comment, I'm a big fan of cursive writing. We're trying to get that back in our schools and everything. So every time I see a good cursive handwriting, I just got to point it out. Our kids need that. Members, the bill, let me give you a little background on 2085 and how we got where we are. Last year, I carried a bill on open enrollment within the LEA. And the reason I did, I always believe that a parent, if they need to go, if they're zoned one area in their district where they are in their LEA, if there's another school they want to go to.
Chairman White, I'm sorry to break your rhythm
Yes,
there,
sir.
but we do have an amendment that we need to go ahead and take care of if you'll indulge me here.
14251.
That is correct. All right, properly motioned. Let's go ahead and get this on the bill. All those in favor of adopting Amendment 14251 indicate by saying aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. Continue on, Chairman White.
Thank you very much. And so, as a proponent, I'm very supportive of an open enrollment policy. So I carried a bill last year for that, and before we got out of session last year, I started getting a lot of contacts from a lot of superintendents around the state. Said, you know, we believe in open enrollment too, but your bill is a little too restrictive on us. We are doing that, but we're having an issue with the way the bill is written. So I amended the bill last year and said it won't go into effect until the summer of 2022, 2023, to give me a year to work on that. So as I went around the state during the summer, I was up in Northeast Tennessee. I met with 16 school superintendents up there, and they said, please amend this in some point in fashion. I met with those in West Tennessee. I've had a lot of superintendents say, you know, we're doing this, but the way your bill is written is causing us problems. So basically, all I've done here, and I've worked on this all session, is all of us, we have these bills and we amend and try to get up. Up till 3 days ago, I had all the participants that had objections or favored the open enrollment bill in the conference room next to my office, and I was in there and I was trying to get a compromise, and so I had to leave about 5 minutes early to another meeting. So I says, you know, work it out and we'll amend it and then we'll run it. Well, I left the room thinking that everything was okay because no one has come to me since then. Well, today we get this sent out and everything, a particular lobbying groups objecting to it. So basically, here's all it does, and see if you think this is appropriate. Number 1, each LEA shall adopt and implement a policy that provides for an open enrollment period for at least 30 days during which a parent or guardian of a school-aged child may choose from a list of LEA schools with available space to enroll the parent or guardian child. That's Section 1A. And they want this to be placed in a student handbook that is distributed to the students and parents at the beginning of each school year so that they know about it. Item 3, it also is to establish a process for the LEA to identify the number of spaces available for enrollment in each of the LEA schools by grade, class, and program levels. And then it asks that is to allow a parent or guardian to request a transfer by submitting an application to the school identified by the LEA as having space available to enroll and serve additional students. And then to finish up, just 4 more points. The fourth part of the bill is establish a process for parents and guardians of school-age children to apply for an available enrollment slot pursuant to the LEA's open enrollment policy. 5, an LEA may reserve, this is for the LEA, they may reserve a reasonable number of enrollment spaces each school year from the number of spaces, if any, identified by the LEA as available for enrollment at the school with the LEA. And then the last 2, if an LEA allows a child to transfer pursuant to the LEA's open enrollment policy, then the child's parent or guardian is responsible for providing the child's transportation to the school. The parent is responsible for that transportation. And lastly, if a school has prerequisite requirements, then a child applying to transfer to the other school pursuant to the LEA's open enrollment policy must meet the school's prerequisite requirements to enroll in the school. So simply, just trying to come up with a fair bill that doesn't go too far. What I found is so many times in these bills is one size doesn't fit all. I found that in working this bill. It may fit in one LEA, but the other 145, they have a policy that fits them better. This requires an open enrollment policy for each school, and I think it's a fair policy. And we have a lot of superintendents, and I've sent this to those who rejected, and they say that works fine. We can live with this particular legislation. So that's all we're trying to do. Amend it, try to compromise so that we don't have a bill in place that gives a lot of our superintendents, our LEAs, too much heartburn. So this is a lot of compromise in this bill, but I think it's a fair bill. And with that, any questions, we can go from there.
Thank you, members. Representative Cassidy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, I got 2 questions, and maybe I misread the bill or misunderstand. My first question is, if a student takes one of these seats and moves into this school that's open, are they guaranteed to be there year after year, or is this a year-by-year choice?
Chairman Watt.
I think once, it's a really good question. I want to say yes, but I may need to ask the...
We do have the TSBA down for this,
TSBA,
if we'd like to go out of session to hear that. So without objection, we will go out of session and have Ben Torres come up. If you would, you might restate that question for Mr. Torres. First of all, go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben Torres, Tennessee School Boards Association.
Representative Caston.
So my question, Ben, and thank you for coming to my office. He comes to my office and holds my hand and hugs me and helps me along, and I'm great. He does, greatly appreciated. My one question is, so a seat opens up in a school, a young person and family apply, they get accepted. Is that person now guaranteed that spot until he graduates from that school, or is this a year-by-year lottery, if you will?
Under this bill and the amendment, it would be up to the district. So if the district wants to have it on a continuous basis where one time you apply and that's it, they can. If they want to reapply every year, that would be optional under this bill.
Okay. My second question, Mr. Chairman, and then when we go back into session, the sponsor may want to address it. And I shared this with you, Ben. I'm just a little concerned that some school districts may not be fair and equitable on allowing who applies to that seat. I think it's imperative that open seat, it has an equal chance to be gained by anyone in that school system. And since it's not spelled out, I just feel there may be some cherry picking going on. That's just a concern I have. I have no evidence to that, but that's a concern. That's what makes me doubt the bill. So if you could address it and the sponsor address.
Do you have any follow-up for that, Ben?
Yeah, one of the things we added in there is the LEA in the policy will have to establish a process to apply for the enrollment and a process for how the LEA will review and approve open enrollment applications. So that will have to be spelled out ahead of time of how they're going to review them, how they're going to approve them. This would be included in the handbook under B1 that goes out to everybody ahead of time, along with the policy. So to address that concern.
Mr. Chairman, just one follow-up if I
Yes,
could.
go ahead.
And this is my last. I understand they'll spell it out. I understand it's be transparent. I like that about the bill, but that's my concern is that they would maybe unknowingly, unwittingly, unpurposefully still have a cherry pick effect in who gets those seats. And I just feel like we should spell that out by limiting it to a lottery or a couple of things, and then let them choose from that category of choices how to fill those empty seats. Just my opinion, sponsor. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman Reagan?
Thank you, and Ben, thank you for being here. And I won't quite say what my predecessor did about coming to my office, but I appreciate you coming to explain things. The prerequisite that schools are allowed to set, that is of some concern to me. Can you give us detail on that?
So that was established, so some districts have magnet schools. So if there's an academic requirement to go into those magnet schools, it was meant for that purpose. Or if a school has a certain program, because the bill requires that they have to post based on if a program is available and there's seats in a program. So at the high school level, if, for instance, you have a nursing assistant program and there's certain things that the student must take before they're eligible to participate, just because there's seats in the program, they wouldn't automatically go into the program. They would still have to meet whatever prerequisites for that specific program. And that kind of that goes back to where it's outlined in B2, where the district has to post the grade, class, and program, the seats available. So we just wanted to make sure we address that specific instance.
Chairman Reagan?
Thank you. And again, I'm seeking clarity on this because, as my colleague mentioned, there's a potential here for abuse on this, to use his words, for cherry picking, and that is a concern. I fully support the idea that transfers among students from between and among public schools is something we should be supporting. If it's a public school, it's a public school, and students should go. But I am concerned about the vagueness that's in here. That program requirement is fine, but I can foresee the possibility that those program requirements can be misapplied. And since this bill is so vague, it looks like it would be fairly easy to do that. You have something to give me comfort on that?
Well, one of the things we added in there, the policy has to be distributed in the student handbook, and the procedure has to be distributed in the student handbook at the beginning of the school year. So you're going to have the policy on open enrollment and the procedure on how they choose and allocate those seats completely available ahead of time before the open enrollment period even starts. So that's back to the transparency piece, so people will be aware of how this process will work well in advance. And hopefully, when it comes to specific program requirements, if there are program requirements, they would also spell that out in the procedures for how students would be able to enroll in those programs if it's at another high school, for instance, on the other side of the county.
Chairman Reagan?
Thank you. And again, Ben, I apologize, but I still don't quite have that warm, fuzzy feeling I need on this. And I should have mentioned this when you were in my office, but unfortunately, running bills this time of year requires attention in multiple areas. Therefore, I really want to make sure that we have a situation, you talk about the transparency where they publish that policy. If the policy is published, that still doesn't prevent abuse, and that's my concern in the vagueness of the bill. So a published abuse policy is still an abuse policy, if you catch my drift. And unless someone can have some sort of leverage to force a change, that doesn't change the fact that it's I'm using the word abuse with quotation marks around it, that it is not fairly applied, maybe a better way to state that. Please address that.
Well, part of that, not only with the policy, is the procedural aspect. The procedural aspect comes into play of how are they going to execute the policy. So when they have to develop this procedure, they're going to have to develop, we're going to review applications, and this is how we're going to review them. We're going to approve applications, and this is how we approve them. So based on that, if there are program requirements, they're going to have to put that in the procedure ahead of time and state, for this specific program, this is what is required of that program for you to go to that program. I can't necessarily say specifically how districts would fully implement this, but that's why we wanted, or that's why we put the procedure in there in addition to the policies, so it would be completely transparent on the front end.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the transparency in this bill, even if not maybe some of the others. Thank you.
Chairman Sapiki?
Thank you, Ben. I'm kind of reiterating on the same pathway here. It's very vague here. We just had a committee meeting before this on charter schools, and the question was asked was, well, if these children are admitted into the charter school and they go to the next year, are they at risk of losing their spot? And the answer was no, they get a priority for those seats. If a child comes in second grade and is going to an out-of-zone school and they go to third grade, are we changing anything that gives them a priority to stay in that school, or are we going to start disrupting education of these students?
I don't think you would disrupt the education. It would be established by the district whether or not they want those students to stay in. So right now, if that's what they put on the front end, and by stay in, I mean if they want to continue on with the open enrollment and allow the student to apply one time, and then that's the only time they have to apply, versus having to apply every year, it would be up to the district to make that decision.
So a statement here, Mr. Chairman, I understand where this bill's going, but I've got a lot of apprehension with this bill about school boards and setting policy to be able to cherry pick a certain kind of student to come to their schools. Out of deference to the chairman, I'll just be a quiet no.
Go ahead, Ben.
Well, and that's certainly not the intent. The intent is to just have some flexibility at a local level and not be as prescriptive in what was passed last year.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for our guests? Representative Clemens.
I keep hearing this cherry picking term over and over again. Is there any evidence of cherry picking, or where's this coming from?
Representative, I don't have any examples that were sent to me personally from districts. I mean, I can reach out to see if any districts have received anything from anyone inside the district, if that would be helpful.
No, I'm just curious where all this was coming from. Thanks, Mr.
Any other questions for our guests? Seeing none, we will go back into session. Thank you, Ben. And Chairman White, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, just to finish up, where I'm coming from on this particular bill and trying to find a solution, I'm very supportive of a parent's right to choose. That's why I support charters and ESAs and all that, and open enrollment is part of that. But just like we just had a bill a second ago about start times for schools, we said, no, we need to leave that up to the locals. Now, what I found out after we passed that bill, and if I'm in a meeting and there's 16 out of 16 superintendents telling me this is not working for us, then I need to pull back and listen to my districts and my superintendents across the state. We have 146 superintendents. And when you draft a bill, and a lot of times we're working up here, but I'm not down the day-to-day of what a particular district is trying to do. So what I'm trying to do is listen to the superintendents across the state. I know there's issues about, worried about cherry picking or things of that nature. But what we're trying to do here is to listen to our superintendents across the state to give them a little flexibility on how they engage in their open enrollment policies. And so this has been amended multiple times, trying to get there, bringing in all the parties, and this is what we came up with. But I'm listening to the superintendents across the state, and just like the other bills we address, sometimes we leave it up to the locals to have a little bit of flexibility.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we'll be voting, without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 2085. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The noes have it. Fails to pass for lack of majority. All right. We've got 2 items left that are mine. I'm going to pass the gavel down to Chairman White.
Mr. Chairman, I got a point of interest. It's 5:50, and I'm hoping this takes 10 minutes. I want free pizza sometime before I leave this legislature.
Okay, committee, we're on item 14, House Bill 1710 by Chairman Haston. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I'll be brief. This piece of legislation just proposes that local school board members be compensated at a level no less than members of the municipal legislative body. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, members, that explanation. Questions to the chairman?
Real quick.
Representative Pickey, you recognized.
Chairman Howe's bill, there is no conflict, right?
There is no conflict with Chairman Howe's bill. Chairman Howe's bill, I believe, just stated that they could have the ability to put it into their budget.
Okay, members, any further discussion on House Bill 1710? Question's been called. Any objection? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving House Bill 1710 out to full committee indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out. Chairman, you now have item number 15, House Bill 2709. Second. Got a motion and a second. You have an amendment?
Yes. It's an untimely filed amendment, I believe, Mr. Chairman. 14441 is what I've got. Is that correct?
Okay, we had a motion and second on the untimely filed amendment? To consider it. Any objection to the question on consideration? All those in favor of considering 14441 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
And the amendment does make the bill.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second, and now we're on the amendment to add it to the bill.
Question on the amendment.
Question's been called on the amendment. Any objection? Hearing none, all those in favor of adding 14441 into House Bill 2709 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we're now back on your bill. It's properly amended. You may describe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does is it cleans up a lot of language that was in the voluntary pre-K program and the pilot program that was still in code. It removes the pilot language, but it also we had an issue where 4-year-old income eligible students were being allowed to go into voluntary pre-K. The issue is that whether or not you had to go to 3-year-old income eligible next, or the vacant seats could be served by those that were waiting in line that were 4-year-old. A lot of the schools in my area had been for several years going 4-year-old income eligible then to 4-year-old. Recently, there was a shift that said that no, it had to be 4-year-old income eligible, and you have to go to 3-year-old income eligible. All this bill does is allow for districts to be able to do either one, whichever one that works best for them. So they can go 4-year-old to 4-year-old, or they can go 4-year-old income eligible to 3-year-old income eligible. And it also defines what at-risk means, which needed to be cleaned up in the language. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, members, with that explanation, questions, discussion? Question being called. Have any objection to the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 2709 going out to full committee indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out.
Thank you, committee members. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We stand adjourned.
Oh, Lordy.